Our lives are intentional. You may be thinking that the title of this video is pretty non-controversial. You may be forgiven for thinking that. Most people would agree with this. I beg to differ. Seriously. How come? Well, if you say to somebody who is down on his luck and who is struggling to put food on the table that his life is intentional and that somehow, some way he chose that life, you might not get a happy response. In fact, you might even get punched in the face. How dare you say something like that? Would anybody who's struggling, who is facing all sorts of issues like health problems, legal problems, divorce, and mental issues intend that kind of life? Would they really choose that kind of life? Talk about insulting. Don't be surprised if you get this kind of reaction. However, regardless of how people react to this reality, it is still reality. I know it's a hard pill to swallow. You have to remember that once a person makes a certain decision and the consequences of that decision appear, that person becomes very, very creative in making up all sorts of excuses, justifications, and reasons to blame others for what happened. We all have that inner genius in us. However, none of this, as painful and unpleasant as it may be on many levels, takes away from the fact that our lives are intentional. How come? Our internal world is the cause of our external world. That's right. Everything about you that other people can observe ultimately came from your internal mental processes. This can be something as shallow and superficial as your haircut, what kind of clothes you wear, how much you weigh, your complexion, how healthy your skin is. This also explains how big your house is or whether you're renting or owning. This is also the cause of the kind of car or means of transportation you have. Your internal world also explains how much money you have in the bank, how much respect people give you, the kind of degrees you have or don't have, so on and so forth. All these come from within. This is a very, very touchy issue for a lot of people because once we all agree that our lives are intentional because of our internal world producing our external result, it becomes obvious that somewhere down the line, some people made the wrong choice. People don't like to be wrong. People don't like to be made to feel that they're being blamed for their own failures or bad decisions. That's just part of human nature. It's to be expected. It's definitely a big blow to the ego. However, regardless of how much it hurts, nothing can take away from the fact that everything people can see from outside of you is a product of your internal choices. To get that car, you had to make a choice. To get that job, which produces a certain income which affords you a certain lifestyle, you had to make a choice or a series of choices. To get that degree or to drop out of high school, you had to make certain choices. All these are internal, and guess what? They can be traced to your values. These values are not set by heaven for you. They're not inherited from somebody else. They're not something that just dropped into your lap. They're choices. Just as some people can choose certain values which lead to a certain lifestyle and certain life results, others can choose other values which produce different results. Again, this is not welcome news to a lot of people. People do not like to be confronted face to face with this reality. Everything in our lives are choices. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes your responses to whatever the world brings your way are repeated so frequently that they seem almost automatic. Don't assume that just because you can predictably respond a certain way when you detect certain things that this is somehow automatic behavior. Don't fool yourself into thinking that you have absolutely no choice when you take certain actions. No. All these habits actually spring from choices. It takes a while to develop a new habit. In fact, according to some estimates, picking up a new habit or breaking one can take anywhere from 21 days to 60 days. You have to repeat the same pattern before you develop or break a habit. What are you doing prior to that point? That's right, you're choosing to take those actions. These are choices. Since you're making choices all the time to produce certain results and consequences, your life is intentional. You may not accept it. It may be uncomfortable. It definitely is not a convenient truth, but it is still the truth. Embrace this fact. Instead of living your life on autopilot, wrap your arms around the concept of intentionality. Master your life or author your life by being as intentional as you can about what you choose to think. This is the bedrock of mentalism. That's how you edit your reality. That's how you go from thinking about a certain outcome to actually seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling that outcome. In other words, you turn ideas into reality. You're not just hoping and wishing. You're not just thinking, it would be nice if certain things existed. You're actually taking action.